Here's a thought experiment for you. What if we give weapons to unarmed combat styles? What weapon would best fit a style of unarmed martial art or combat sport without changing too many aspects of how the art itself looks like or how it's used? That's what we'll be finding out today with these 3 styles. Disclaimer: I am not a weapons guy. If you want to know how these weapons would be properly used in their own contexts, I suggest channels like Scalagrim, Sellsword Arts, or the karate nerd himself, Jesse Enkamp. With that out of the way, let's get started. First, we have the style of Sugar Rays, Kid Dynamites and Smoking Joes. The sweet science of fighting fist to fist, boxing. For boxing, I thought of something lightweight that could do significant harm even when not delivering a knockout strike. With this in mind, a weapon like Push Dagger and the obvious choice of Brass Knuckles would do pretty well. Push Dagger is a small, palm-held dagger where the blade protrudes out from either between the middle and ring finger or the index and middle finger. So you attack with it by, pushing the dagger with your palm. Push daggers would have the benefit of having a slightly longer reach than Brass Knuckles and having more penetrative power. They would work well with flicker jabs, typically used in Detroit-style boxing, along with other styles that emphasize fast lead hand action and outboxing the opponent. Defending against bladed weapons is a lot harder since they do damage even with the slightest of hits. Brass Knuckles would be better at delivering concussive damage instead of debilitating the opponent with cuts. Brawlers and pressure fighters would do well with added damage given by Brass Knuckles. The crack they give you even when defending would help these kinds of fighters push the advantage and gain the upper hand in a close quarters exchange. Taking hard hooks to your forearms with Brass Knuckles would drop most people's guards instantly and open them up for knockout punches. Issue with this is Brass Knuckles need a lot more speed and power to do damage than a blade does. They also change the way you hold a fist pretty significantly, and that might mess with how well you're able to punch. But on the other hand, they wouldn't change the angles you strike from, since the prohibited part of boxing glove's striking area is about as wide as Brass Knuckles are. Hammer fists or back fists don't really work with Brass Knuckles, so you'd use traditional boxing techniques. Now, both of these have the drawback of taking away the protection that boxing gloves give you. Empty hands, and even more so balled up fists, don't really offer you any passive defense. Without gloves, you need to be a lot more active with your guard work. Now, what would better simulate the defense given by boxing gloves with the added benefit of increasing your damage and range? Bucklers. Bucklers are small handheld shields around 45 cm in diameter. This kind of shield would give you a significant amount of protection compared to just your bare hands, even more so than a boxing glove. The rounded edge of a buckler isn't usually thicker than a brass knuckle, so you'd get the damage advantage of Brass Knuckles' small contact area with the added 20 centimeters of reach, give or take a couple centimeters. Now just imagine a peekaboo-style boxer with almost a meter of added defense around their face. That's like a walking tank. Of course, you'd want to be careful not to knock yourself out with your own buckler when guarding, so maybe you need to open up your basic peekaboo a bit. A buckler would not only work as passive defense, but also active by covering the opponent's field of view when pushed closer to the opponent's face. Downsides of buckler when compared to a push dagger is of course the lack of edge. But to be fair, boxing strikes aren't usually meant to penetrate or cut the opponent more than they are meant to produce concussive damage. Other issues with buckler as a weapon is wrenching a buckler out of your hand isn't all that hard. Even if they don't completely strip you of your weapon, they can still control you from the buckler. Of course, this works both ways. If the opponent has one hand on your weapon, it's not protecting them, so you can go ham with the other buckler. Considering all this, I'd say a pair of bucklers, or even just one, would suit a boxer very well. They enhance all the aspects of boxing without having any really significant drawbacks. If you want to be cheeky and have some variation in the strikes for lead and rear hands, you could mix and match with buckler and a push dagger, buckler and brass knuckle, or even brass knuckle and push dagger for lower defense but extreme offensive capabilities. Next is a style of flying knees, knife-like elbows and fighting since you're 5, the art of 8 limbs, Muay Thai. For Muay Thai, I thought of something that would enhance your hand strikes would be good. In most striking arts, you wear gloves because if you were to hit with the same force you throw elbows and kicks, you'd break your fists. This is why my mind went to a weapon that would protect your hands and still enhance the power of your strikes. Maybe something like a mallet? Now hear me out. I know a mallet sounds kinda dumb, but let me show you how the idea for this video came to be.
please stop?
You see, wooden mallet is actually pretty solid choice. It's lightweight, doesn't change the way you punch, protects your fists and doesn't hinder your ability to use elbows or kicks, and can be used together with most distinct part of Muay Thai, the clinch. Downside is it would leave you only one hand to clinch with and would make it pretty obvious which side the strikes were going to come from, but the same issue would be with pretty much any weapon. The other weapon, which I personally think would fit even better, is tonfa. Tonfa is the Chinese name for the Okinawan kobujutsu weapon called tungkwa in Okinawan martial arts. It's a stick around 50 to 60 centimeters in length and has a handle perpendicular to the shaft attached a third or fourth of the way down the shaft. In the 70s, American police started using similar side handle batons, and most famous of which is the Monadnock PR-24. For Muay Thai, tonfa would be right at home. The short end would give you around 10 centimeters more range, and the small impact area would enhance the force delivered by your punches. Alternatively, you could spin the tonfa around and poke at your opponent's stupid fucking face from about 40 centimeters further away. Tonfas would also give your elbow strikes a bit more oomph without having to worry about hurting yourself. Things like the jumping elbow, shout out to Damien Trainer, would be even more devastating like this. One strike that would get an interesting twist from using tonfas is the hook. Having the tonfa sit in your palm loosely and letting it swing around when throwing a hook would give the strike almost twice the range. Now, this would only work if you throw a hook with your thumb up instead of palm down. And as a downside, you don't have your entire body weight behind the strike anymore. It's just a really compact, one-handed swing of a stick, but it could catch a retreating opponent off guard, giving you an opening for further strikes. Defensively, tonfas would shield you when using techniques like a Muay Thai style check or a Dutch block. Pretty much any defensive technique relying on your forearm would be much more effective with the tonfas. Optimally, you'd want to deal damage even when defending, and for that the tonfa, similar to bucklers, would suit extremely well. Downside again is sacrificing one hand to holding a weapon in a clinch. Similar to buckler, and even more so with tonfa, your opponent can fairly easily grab the weapon in close quarters exchange and wrench it out of your hands, and at that point there's still a tonfa in the game, now it's just against you. But imagine the kind of devastating elbows you could throw while holding the opponent in a clinch. Man, that would suck! Even protecting against a tonfa with your forearms would hurt quite a bit. For a more defensive nakmui, an excellent choice would be a Hungarian-style shield, as depicted in the 15th century German manual Gladiatoria Fetchbuch. It has all the upsides of a buckler for punches, but with less chances of getting ripped from your hand, and would even allow shield-enhanced elbow strikes. Hungarian shield would have even more protective coverage and a nastier point of contact at the end than a buckler. The only caveat would be that it's a lot more extra weight to lug around than a tonfa, and if your opponent gets a hold of it, it's an easy point of leverage to move you around as well. The weight is exactly why I didn't think of the Hungarian shield for boxing. With Muay Thai, you'd have your kicks to supplement the heavy punches, so you won't tire yourself out with swinging two shields all the time like you would with trying to constantly punch with these bad boys. Also, your clinching wouldn't be hindered the same way as with the previous two, since the shield is strapped to your forearm, so you won't lose it if you open up your fist to clinch. Here too, the combination of these three weapons would enhance your Muay Thai pretty effectively. Imagine fighting a nakmui with a shield and a mallet. I wouldn't even try. Last on our list for today is the style of power slaps and devastating tosses, the art of supersized samurai showdowns, sumo. Sumo has 82 kimarite or winning techniques approved by the Sumo Association, which I've linked down below. Among these are basic techniques like oshidashi or frontal push-out and abise-taoshi or backwards force-down, along with leg trips like ankle pick, kozumatori, twists like the armbar throw tottari, and throws like nichonage or body drop throw, also known in judo as osotogari. Now, what kind of weapon would fit a style like sumo? Not too many weapons work all that well with a wrestling style like this, since you need both hands free to properly throw people, but I did find one that would enhance both the slapping and pushing aspects of sumo as well as the throws. That weapon is the shuko. Shuko originated as an agricultural tool. Originally similar to a handheld rake, it took its later shape of hooks worn inside the palm sometime in the Sengoku period in 1467 to 1603. The version made popular by Tokagure-ryu ninjutsu is made out of a wrist strap attached to a metal band wrapping around the palm with hooks protruding out of the metal band. With its origin in helping lift up bales of hay and other similar agricultural tasks and later use as a weapon in some styles of ninjutsu, it seems like a perfect fit for sumo, a style where you lift heavy opponents and slap them with open hands. Now imagine techniques like the oshidashi or the frontal push-out, but instead of just open palm, you're pushing the opponent with several metal spikes. Similarly, with any throw, the spikes would help with keeping a hold of the fundoshi, and the pain it would cause in, for example, an ankle pick would be pretty terrifying. According to Nippon.com, 60% of matches end in either a yorikiri, oshidashi, yoritaoshi, frontal crush-out, or oshitaoshi, frontal push-out. Another 15% of the time, moves like hatakikomi, slap down, or tsukiotoshi, thrust down, are the winning technique. So my assumption that something worn in the palm of your hand would help with the effectiveness of sumo techniques isn't that far-fetched. Downside is, due to how many of these techniques are performed, they don't really need any enhancing, to be honest. If you already get into a position where you can go for a hatakikomi, do you really need to inflict extra pain with a pair of shukos? Not really. But for that 25% of time when the technique other than these gets the win, a pair of shukos might give the extra boost needed to really make the throw effective. So, what was the point of this video? I don't know. I just thought it would be fun to discuss what weapons would make these styles even more effective, I guess. If you want to make like a fantasy character that uses some of these weapons, you could take pointers on what martial art to combine with that, or something. Other funny ideas for weapon enhanced martial arts I had were Taekwondo with spurs, Wing Chun with double tasers, and Karate with a stick. That's just Kobudo, never mind. Anyway, thanks for watching. Comment on what weapon you think would fit an unarmed style. Check out our socials below, come hang in the Twitch chat, and we'll see you in the next video. Bye!